My name is Ariadna Lebron. I am a first year at Columbia College.
Mm-hmm.
I'm planning on studying biology on the pre-med track. And from my background, I come from a low-income family, so
Okay.
I'm also first generation. And I usually grew up in the city. And essentially, I just, I guess, here for opportunities and just diving more into the future and learning more about different careers and just exploring what I want to do while I'm in
Makes sense.
college.
Yep. First of all, I gotta congrats you on getting into Columbia. I think it's a
Sure.
very big achievement. I think the acceptance rate is like 4% or something. So
Yeah,
props to you. Amazing work.
thank you.
All right. So I guess my first question to you would be like, when did you first consider Columbia as a possibility? Like, was it like always a dream school for you, or did it become one later? I guess.
Yeah. So since the start of my freshman year of high school, I've always
Mm-hmm.
considered Columbia. It was my dream school for, I think, up until my junior year. And then it
Mm-hmm.
has switched over to Yale because I had
Okay.
done the summer program there and I really enjoyed my experience and my time there. So when I knew a lot about Columbia when I first came into, like, come to terms with the fact that I wanted to apply. So I already
Mm-hmm.
knew that I already wanted to go here at one point in
Mm-hmm.
my life. Even though it had changed, like, towards the end of my high school career, I still think I made the right decision to apply here.
Makes sense. All right. First of all, the Yale program. Did you get into YYGS?
Yes, I did.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. So like I have a lot of people asking me that as well, like who are in like their high school right now and they're wondering like how to apply for YYGS. Apparently it's like even harder to get into
Yeah.
YYGS than like good universities. So like what was
Mhm.
your process for that?
YYGS, my process, I would say it was difficult because I was on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a support system to apply, mainly because it was a program that not many people knew about.
Mm-hmm.
And so writing the essays, I didn't have like someone read over my essays. I didn't have anybody guiding me through the process.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So when I was applying, mostly thought about how I should be genuine in my essays and how I can convey a story of
Mm-hmm.
why I chose to do the program and why and what I can get out of the program. So I think my process just mainly involved like being true to myself and understanding that even if I don't have a support system, I know that I can still apply to a program as prestigious as this and have the confidence to know that this is the scholar that I am and
Mm-hmm.
I have a chance here.
Makes sense. Okay, so like I guess like what do they look at? Do you know anything about that? Like what differentiated your application compared to like thousands and millions of other people who apply to YYG?
I think it was mainly my curiosity
Mm-hmm.
because at the time I was battling between whether I wanted to study biology or archaeology.
Mm-hmm.
And considering that I didn't have many opportunities in the area I was growing up, I
Okay.
think I saw YYGS as like an opportunity to open those doors for
Mm-hmm.
me and also for scholars in the upcoming years. Because
Yeah.
in my school, I was the first person to get into the program. And now that
Mm-hmm.
set a trend for the incoming
Yeah.
class. Like last year, a few students did YYGS as well. So I think I saw it as an opportunity and I was able to display that in a way that reflected who I was, not only as a scholar, but also as a human being. So I saw it
Makes
almost
sense.
as like an early college application because it felt like one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it felt like I could just put myself onto paper because I'm more than just the grades that are on my transcript.
Makes sense. Okay. And yeah. MIT's program, there's another MIT's program as well, I think MITES and
Yeah.
YYGS. I've seen like if you get into one of these programs, it's like much easier to get into like a
Yeah.
good college after that. Yeah. So like anyone looking to apply, I think you should try your luck with YYGS or
Mhm.
MITES for sure. All
Yeah.
right, moving on. Let's talk about your stats. Like, what was your GPA and test scores that got you into Columbia?
Okay. Um, my GPA was out of 100, so it
Mm-hmm.
was a 99.6 or 7.
Yeah.
And then I did not submit any test scores. I didn't think it
Mm-hmm.
reflected me academically because I also didn't have the resources to study for them. And
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't want to use it as an excuse to not take the test. But when I took the test, I felt that it wasn't a reflection of who I was academically.
Okay.
And in terms of, can I say ranking or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
In terms of ranking, I was third out of 136 students. So it was
Mm-hmm.
a relatively small class or medium-ish. In terms of that, that's mainly it. I took 3 APs, but at the time of applying, I only had one, which
Okay.
was AP Physics.
And did your school offer like a lot of APs or did you
No.
self-study them? What was the situation there?
My school at the time, my school now has more APs, but at the time, only juniors got to take APs,
Okay.
and you could only take one, or if you advanced to a higher level of calculus, you could take two. So I was only able to take three, and I think they only offered six at the time.
Okay.
And a few of them mainly went to the freshmen regardless. And I was already a junior or a senior at the time. So I was only going to take one my senior year, and I ended up taking two because I had accelerated from Algebra 2 to AP Calculus. Although the class was a little harder, I was able to still like go above the measure of learning and just challenge myself academically.
Makes sense. And like a lot of people have this question as well. Like, I guess, do you need to get like all fives? Did you get all fives or did you have some fours or threes as well?
I had threes. I
Okay.
had threes. I don't think test scores really reflect a student academically. It just reflects the knowledge that you learn. Because in my opinion, it really does depend on your teacher and what teacher you have and how many hours you dedicate to studying or like the effectiveness of your study. So I don't think they reflect, but I would say that I don't think you need a five to
Makes
go
sense.
above
I
that
mean,
measure.
Columbia is like a really good school. Like it's one of
Yeah.
the best for sure. And I guess like my question to you would be like, how did you feel about your academic profile? Because a lot of people they want to max out like everything, right?
hmm
And like, what do you have to say for that?
I felt like I was the least of the bunch, if that makes sense. I felt that I wasn't doing enough compared to the other scholars in my grade. I felt that I was almost doing the bare minimum to get into an Ivy, whereas someone else who did 10 times more as I did in high school and who went above and beyond and did self-study and BAPs. They got into great schools, but I felt like almost like an imposter, like, oh, I didn't deserve that achievement because they did way more than me and they got into this school. So I think it really just depends. I definitely know that you don't need to max out. You need to do what you're passionate about. And I did what I was passionate about. I did a lot of volunteering hours. I love to volunteer. I love working with children, and that's what I'm passionate about. And so I did that and I set myself to do those things. If you're doing it just for the academic or for the college, then that's not really the whole purpose of it. You're losing the purpose of that. And I
Yeah.
think that's why I reshifted my perspective into thinking I'm doing what I'm passionate about, and colleges can see that. And I
Yeah.
want them to see what I'm passionate about. I don't want them to see like a cutout copy of what a scholar should look like. I want them to see who I am and who I want to be.
I feel like this is like a very big slippery slope, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
because like at the same time you want to max out everything because you know what
Yeah.
who you're up against because everyone's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
a killer in that range, you know, like when you're
Right.
applying to top schools. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, you cannot lose that. I guess your authenticity and everything
Mm-hmm.
in the process. And I feel like everyone struggles with it. Like you said, you felt like an imposter. I felt like an imposter applying to schools. You know, even though like my stats were good, but like you still feel like oh,
Yeah,
they're gonna be like 100 people better in that area or something. Yeah, makes sense.
exactly. And also, like, it almost loses originality because there
Yeah.
are hundreds of other students who are doing the exact same thing that you're doing, and it just lacks the personality of your entire, like, application. So I don't think it's best to max out, but I think it's best to challenge yourself, but also add personality and do what you're mostly passionate about instead of being like this cutout piece of what a scholar should look like.
Makes sense. Totally, totally. All right, like let's move on to your extracurriculars, I guess. My first question would be, I guess, when was the earliest you started thinking strategically about your ECs? Did you plan your activities ahead? And if so, like how early did you start?
I did not start planning my activities or thinking about planning my activities until my junior year of high school. My freshman year, I have really, really strict parents, so they wouldn't let me do like a lot of clubs or like join certain clubs. So a lot of my clubs were online or they were volunteering. And so I didn't really think much of it, if that makes sense, until my junior year where I started doing a lot more programs. My sophomore year, I had done an internship over the summer at Memorial Sloan Kettering. And I was still not thinking about, oh, how can this boost my resume? I was just thinking I'm doing something I'm passionate about. So then I really got so focused on my extracurriculars my junior year that I stressed myself out too much. I started doing things I wasn't passionate about, but I knew it was going to look good on a college application. And that's when I had to take a step back and just stop and realize, let me continue doing the things that I was already doing and continue to pursue the things I'm passionate about. So I would say I did, in terms of time, I did technically start my freshman year. However, I didn't start thinking about my extracurriculars until my junior year.
Makes sense. Okay. And I guess like people feel they might be like late when they're in junior year and they're just starting out. So I guess like what would be your advice to them? Like what should they focus on?
It's never too late. It's something that I never got told, but it's never too late. And my advice to that is start now. Like if you think that you're a little behind, you could start now. There's never a time when you can't start. And start pursuing things you're passionate about or start seeking things you're probably interested in. For example, I was interested in painting. So I started pursuing that passion of painting. Even though I'm also in love with medicine, I also had hobbies because hobbies can technically be an extracurricular. And
Yep.
so I considered it as like start doing things you love or start pursuing things you're interested in and see what you do like and who you want to be. Because you don't have to decide the person that you want to be your high school or your college years. You can decide even after that or before that. But don't overwork yourself to the point where you're doing things just because. Do it because you love to do it or you're passionate about it or you're interested in it.
Okay. And I guess, well, let's talk about like walk us through like some of your extracurriculars, the one you think made the most impact on the admissions officers.
I have two that I think impacted the admissions officers. My first one was my volunteer experience at my former elementary school. So every Saturday they will have tutoring sessions for the kids because in New York you have to take state exams starting
Okay.
your third grade. And so they would do tutoring for that or like practice problems. And so I essentially was like helping them in their homework, in their classwork, leading children to the classes they need to be. But then towards the end of the Saturday Academy, the art teacher decides, let's start painting a mural. And so a lot of these children are shy. These kids are coming from underserved communities or they're coming from immigrant parents. Some of them are immigrants as well. And
Yeah.
so they don't feel comfortable. They didn't feel comfortable. They didn't want to do anything. And so my way of sparking that creativity in them was through painting because I know I love painting.
Yeah.
And I helped a lot of students explore and express their creativity. There was one kid, he told me he liked Spider-Man. So I told him, paint Spider-Man or use the colors of Spider-Man, whatever you like. And like seeing the smile on their faces, just like, it just made me realize the whole point of as to why I'm doing this in the first place. And so I even got special recognition from the school as well at the end of the program. And I was like thinking about that it's not about the recognition, it's about the impact that I leave on these students. These kids at the beginning of the program were shy, they didn't talk, they weren't expressive. And now towards the end of it, I was helping them. I was translating for the Spanish-speaking students. I was helping them. I was allowing them to, I was sparking a light in them that I never thought that I could spark. And seeing those kids so happy and smiling with like, they had so much joy at the end of the program that I never thought that I could leave that impact on them. And then my second extracurricular was my internship at Memorial Sloan Kettering. So Memorial Sloan Kettering has a variety of programs that are catered to high school students, and I did the summer exposure program. So the program exposed me to multiple underserved fields in the hospital or like not as like well recognized. And during that time, I got to shadow a thoracic surgeon. I got to have three mentors, two who were in medical school, and they essentially guided me through the process of college, of what I should expect in college, how I should expect to write my essays. They've helped me with interviews and how to ask questions, how to network. It's just opened a door for me that I never thought I would be able to open myself. And the program left an impact on me where I realized that medicine is the field I want to head towards. And it also allowed me to learn more about research, allowed me to learn more about networking, and communicating with people, with professionals who are in a higher field. And so I think it just left an impact on me that the admissions officers were able to see, because I did briefly talk about it in my QuestBridge application. And I would say it did become a part of me for a little while and a part of who I wanted to be.
The way you're speaking about your activities feels like very genuine, and I feel like a lot of students, they kind of forget about that part of the application, and they just start following the crowd, and
Yeah.
like they want like the most impact, like the most number-based impact you can show on an application, and I think it kind of like gets filtered out in admissions officer's head when you describe something like that. So I guess like my question would be like, how did you show your impact on your college application about these EC?
Instead of expressing them through numbers, I expressed them through the impact it had on me and how that impact reflected on other students. For example, for my volunteer extracurricular, I could have spoken about how I helped 30 plus kids. I translated for 30 or more children on how to speak English, or translated their homework assignments for them. But instead, I mostly spoke about how I left an impact of creativity in children and how that impact had allowed them to be more expressive, be more creative, and open doors for them to be more confident in their homework assignments or in the classroom. So I mostly spoke about my impact in the classroom rather than the impact, the like numerical impact.
Okay, I think this is like very unique compared to some of the Ivy League students have already interviewed, in which sense they try to show impact on others. But I feel like this would be very helpful for students who don't have that, but they have the impact that happened on themselves, and I think they can express them much better on their college application. All right. So moving on, like I guess like my question to you would be like, were your activities very scattered or were they very narrow? What would you say?
I would say it was a little bit of both in terms of it was scattered in the different fields that I wanted to do. For example, I had extracurriculars where I worked with children, and then I also had extracurriculars where I worked in medicine, but then they became narrow in terms of in their respective fields. So it would mainly be mostly about medicine or children. So I wouldn't call it scattered, but it was scattered in terms of how I volunteered, where I volunteered, and what internships I did. Because I only did one internship, but it was scattered in a way where I got to branch out for different fields within the medical field. So for different jobs in the medical field and different types of research. And so I would say it was a mix of both.
Okay. And the ED season is coming right up. I think it's like less than 2 months away. So I guess like if you had like weird interests, how would a person make sure they all put forward like a consistent narrative throughout the application?
I think it involves being genuine and not hindering your light to fit in with the rest of the applications. Because I think social media also has an impact on how people see applications. They see countless students with hundreds of applications they see countless of applications where students are like this perfect, like they have a 4.0, they do this and that, they start a business, a nonprofit. Yes, it's amazing that they do those things, but in a way it does lack a lot of like originality and just being like genuine. Like it's okay to be yourself on paper. Like if you love arts, you can easily narrate about art in different ways. And I think admissions officers want to see parts of you that will benefit their college campus, or they want to see a part of you that's yourself, not just who you want them to see, but who you really are. It's not about them, it's more so about you and how you can show who you are and your personality through the essays that you write.
I totally agree with this. They're trying to build like a community, so you have to fit in that in some sense, and you can only fit in that once you're your true self.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, for sure. You talked about 2 of your activities, and I was gonna ask them like, were they like mentioned as community service activities or just normal activities? Okay, perfect. I guess let's talk about your awards and honors now. Like, how strong do you think your awards and honor section was?
For QuestBridge, I only had to list 5 awards. So I picked the best 5 that I had, and the majority of them were school-based. I think 4 out of 5 of them were school-based, and then 1 was state-based. And the one was a scholarship with Horatio Alger, New York State Scholar. So I think it just spoke more about who I was. I wasn't your typical like winning national awards and winning like awards that you would typically see on like an Ivy League application. I think it was just more so school based and just being who I am in the school and how I left an impact on my school.
Yeah. No, but like I think like they take a lot of context into your application as well, and
Mm-hmm.
this section especially is based on how many resources you
Yeah.
had and like
Mm-hmm.
what you'd made out of those instead of like just pure like
Yeah.
national awards and stuff like that, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Let's talk about your essays. So I guess like my first question to you would be like, how did you turn your journey into like compelling essays that got you into an Ivy League?
It was hard. It was really hard because QuestBridge only gives you 2 weeks to apply. And so I didn't have my essays pre-written because I wasn't planning on applying through QuestBridge at the time. Well, initially, until I made it as a finalist. But it was hard. I had a massive writer's block when writing Columbia's essays, mainly because I felt like I needed to fit into the perfect picture of Columbia.
Yep.
During that time, I was just so stuck. And I was like, what can I write about that makes sense to Columbia? But then I realized it doesn't have to make sense to them. It has to make sense to me. Like, this is who I am as a person. This is who I like. This is who I want to be. This is what I like. And so my process really involved a lot of time reflecting my entire life and how it led me to the point or the person that I am today. And these essays, you see, the essay with Yale felt too easy because I can speak about YYGS and why I wanted to come here. But then Columbia made me dive deeper intellectually and made me dive deeper into my curiosity of like, is this what I want to reflect on my application? So it did take a lot of time, and I submitted it the final hour, like right the final hour of the deadline. And it was a relief, but it just like, I felt so, reading back on my work, I just felt so proud of the person that I was and how I was able to reflect that in my essays.
Yeah. Okay. And like, what did you write about? Did you write about your main passion project, your family experiences, or like something else entirely?
A bit of everything. Depended on the
Okay.
essay. I did write about my experience with my volunteer and how it really just stemmed from something completely different than I had originally thought it would. For example, when I spoke about how getting cut from softball actually led me to drive that curiosity into painting and why I love art so much. And then I spoke about how I used to think being bilingual was nothing and how it was just, oh, I just spoke Spanish at home. But then I realized that I could be a voice for those who can't speak for themselves. So
Okay.
my essays were pretty scattered about the different areas in my life that I thought weren't as important, but then I realized that they are important and that they do matter. And everything in my life and every aspect of my life adds up to everything that I want to become or what I
Okay.
want to be at Columbia.
Makes sense. Okay. I guess like another question people think about a lot when trying to write their essay is like, how do you make your story stand out when you don't have like the typical extraordinary narrative?
It'll all go back to being genuine. It really does tie back to being genuine. You don't need to have an extraordinary essay to get into the school. I know I didn't have extraordinary essays. Like compared to some of my peers, like I know I did not. And so it's not about having the extraordinary essay, but having an essay that reflects who you are and the person and how that person fits into Columbia. Because Columbia is huge. It's a variety of different cultures and different backgrounds. So it's not about fitting into a cookie cutter of what a community is, but how you can add on to the community that embraces that college.
Okay. And I guess like my follow-up question would be, and it's like, I think everyone thinks about it as well when they're applying. So like, what does being genuine actually mean in college essays when you're just like trying to impress these admissions officers from the best schools? And like, how do you balance that genuine, like your genuine personality while still trying to impress?
Being genuine just involves knowing who you truly are and how you can reflect that on paper. It's knowing what you like, knowing your interests, and knowing that you are set apart from others, and that is okay. And impressing the admissions officers just really means, how can I show myself on paper? How can I sum up everything that I did, everything that I've done, everything I do now onto an application? And how is my personality and my interests reflected to the admissions officer? How can I reflect who I am to my admissions officer? So it's not about impressing them, but showing them who you are.
Okay, makes sense. I think this will be immensely helpful for people who are thinking about that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should sprinkle in some weird English vocabulary so they know. I know I fell in that trap, but I had to just read it all of my essay again.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, like, I have no idea like how QuestBridge applications go. So can you walk us
Mm-hmm.
through, like, do you select like a lot of colleges, or are you like locked into like one single college when you apply?
Okay. So it really starts off with applying to QuestBridge. So applying to QuestBridge mainly involves, it's like a college application. But, well, do you know what QuestBridge is first?
Yeah, I think it's for like low income families for financial
Yes.
aid and stuff, right?
Yes. So essentially what QuestBridge is, it's a program for low-income students to help them to cover their their financial needs in college. So essentially what the first step or the first phase of the process is, you have to be a finalist.
Okay.
So there's a separate application for that. That's your initial application. And so they already expect you to have a personal statement. And I think a benefit with QuestBridge is that your personal statement can be 800 words rather than 650 like Common App.
Okay.
So I think that's a little bit of a benefit in terms of like how you voice and like if you need to speak more. But the short answer, there's a lot of short answer questions, and you pretty much have to sum up in characters. So it's not in terms of words, it's in terms of characters. So there's very limited space for QuestBridge officers to know more about you. And then once you completed that portion of the application, there's a lot of financials that go into it. Like it's like FAFSA 2.0, where like they have to know about both parents, or if it's one parent, you have to file separately. There's like a whole separate process for that. Once that happens, you wait, I think, around 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and that's where you know whether you become a finalist or not.
Okay.
Let's say in this scenario you get accepted as a finalist. That's where you start listing your colleges. So you list in terms of preference. So you get to choose from 13, I think it's 20 or 50, I'm not too sure on the number, but you get to list 13 schools.
Okay.
And it's in order of preference. Obviously, like, your first school is your top choice, and then the last school is like your last resort in a way, but you don't have to list all 13. Once you do that, you apply to the school through QuestBridge. So like you do their essays. And with QuestBridge also, some of the essays are shortened. For example, Yale on a Common App is 7 essays, or like the short answer responses. On QuestBridge is only 2. So it's like a little bit of a leeway because they already know more about you because of your QuestBridge application.
Okay.
Once that happens, once you apply to all the schools, it's decision or the match day. So how match works is your first school evaluates you. If you don't get accepted into that school, it goes down to the second school, third school, and beyond.
Okay.
And so when I got matched, when I ranked, I listed Yale first, Johns Hopkins second, and Columbia third.
Okay.
So when I got accepted to Columbia, I realized I got my third match, which is like my final match. But to some students, you don't get a match at all. So it's like you match or you don't. But QuestBridge also has QuestBridge also has a separate application where if you don't match, you do regular decision through QuestBridge, and you'll still get like full aid covered.
Okay.
But with QuestBridge, if you do match, it's binding because it's an early decision agreement.
Okay.
Unless it's MIT. MIT is not binding. But if you do match to a school, it's binding. You have to go regardless.
Okay, makes sense.
Yes.
That's just like kind of like ED for Common App. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm also constantly asked about this. Like, how do you balance like reach, match, and safety schools when building your college list?
I balanced it in terms of where I wanted to go and how badly I wanted to go and how it reflected on my application or like who I
Okay.
am as an applicant. For my reschool, so I listed 18 schools. So for my list, I was planning on doing 18. It was 6 in each because I considered my schools as schools I want to go. My reach schools were schools like there's not really that much of a possibility because of the low acceptance rate, but I wouldn't mind going to these schools.
Okay.
Then my targets were like, my application of who I am definitely matches what this school looks for in a person academically. And then my safeties were mostly CUNY schools because they were mostly, I wouldn't call them my last resort because if I didn't get into my target or my reaches, I would definitely go to one of my safeties. So I wouldn't consider them as like my last resort, but I consider them as academically, I almost surpassed their requirement, if that makes sense.
Makes
If
sense.
it's
Yep.
like I'm over the bar and then I'm at the bar or I'm below the bar.
Okay.
That's how I saw it.
Makes sense. Moving on, let's talk about mentorship. Like, how important do you think advice from seniors is when applying to colleges? And like, did you have any help during your application process?
Mentorship is really important. And I seriously think is one of the more important things because you really need that support as a senior, especially when you don't have experience knowing more about college applications or when you have FGLI parents or when you're FGLI, like you don't have that support system because your parents don't know. So I did have help. I was in Let's Get Ready, which was a mentorship program I'm still in now. It helps you from high school all the way up to college. And I had immense help from my high school counselors. And then I was also in Scholars Match, which helps you with your college essays, with your FAFSA, CSS profile. And I did receive a lot of support. And I think mentorship is important when you're a senior because you need that kind of support. You need somebody to guide you through the process and help you achieve what you want to achieve, especially in your essays.
Yeah.
Because it's not that you don't want to say the wrong things, but you want to be careful with how things are phrased. You want to make sure that things are phrased in a way that is reflective of you and shows more of you and not just everybody else, if that makes sense.
Makes sense. Totally understandable. And I totally agree with this. I had like a lot of help with my seniors, with like a counselor, and it really, I think, differentiated my college application process. I guess like that's all. If you have any like last piece of advice for people who are looking to apply, go ahead.
My last piece of advice would be to not let this take over your senior year. I know I definitely let college applications take over my senior year and I was way more stressed than I should have been. And so I think it's very important to still have fun and to still have that balance even when applying to colleges. So I think it's also very important to just dedicate some time to yourself as well. And that this is also a very important step in your life, but it's not the most important step in your life.
Thank you so much for your time. I think it will be immensely helpful for people who are looking to apply. And yeah, let's stay connected. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you so much.
of course.